back in that bag again. Whoa, yeah.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hartman, recording this on Sunday, February 1st, joined by Andrew Dukowitz of Zone Coverage and the Missing Wolves podcast. We'll talk about the Timberwolves midseason report. We're coming up on the All-Star break. Wolves are on a 4-game winning streak after their 5-game losing streak. We'll talk a little bit of trade talk. We'll talk about Giannis, the likelihood of that, or maybe some smaller moves. And then also Andrew covers Gopher Women's basketball. They are number 13 in the net rankings and having a really strong season. They have some huge games coming up. They go to Iowa. They got Michigan State, Ohio State left on their schedule. So the Gopher Women having looks like an NCAA Tournament season so far, 16-6 overall. They're sitting at 7-4 in the Big Ten, tied for 6th, I believe. And other things around the upper Midwest in terms of basketball over the weekend. We had some electric high school games. Buffalo hosted Wayzata. Wayzata escapes with a 1-point victory. Christian Wiggins hits the game winner with just over a second left. Buffalo only playing one senior primarily. They got 2 sophomores that are fantastic. They were my team of the week last week, and they followed it up with a really strong showing against Wayzata. So Buffalo's 2 losses on the year to the Trojans. Might get maybe a possible rematch in tournament play. The other game that was extremely exciting was Cretin-Derham Hall at De La Salle, the battle on the island for the Catholic supremacy in the Metro, and De La Salle comes out with the win. Hit a couple free throws late, or got an N1 late and made the free throw to win. And big win for De La Salle and Todd Anderson's group there. So that was another great basketball game in the Metro. Gophers men lose again. They lost today on the first here to Penn State. Again, comes down to the wire. Oh man, Nico just can't buy one right now. They're battling. They're keeping it close. But Penn State, that was their first Big Ten win of the season. So kind of an unfortunate role that the Gophers are on, and they just can't find a way to win these close games. I think a big part of it is they just don't have a lead guard that can really be a playmaker, a shot maker at the end of games. Cade Tyson did return to the lineup after missing the previous game with an ankle injury. So they were a little bit healthier, I guess, 7 guys, but they fall again and lose. I believe it's now their 7th game in a row. So Gophers are struggling. Some exciting college games this weekend as well. In the Big 12 yesterday, we had BYU and Kansas, the battle of the potential top 2 picks in the NBA draft. AJ DeBonsa for BYU, Darren Peterson for Kansas. Look out for Kansas. If Peterson is playing and he's healthy, they started off pretty slow, kind of slipped in the rankings, but they win that game against BYU. Kansas is starting to put it together a little bit, and as long as Peterson's playing and healthy, they are going to be a factor in not only the Big 12, but potentially the NCAA tournament. Another team that I had earlier called disappointment so far was Florida. They started out 5-4. Look out now. They beat Vandy. They beat Alabama. They're winning in the SEC. They have 2 losses in the SEC. They're in 2nd. But Florida is starting to play really good basketball. They blew out Alabama today. Todd Golden had some words. There's some animosity there between Nate Oates, head coach at Alabama, and Todd Golden at Florida. But Florida lets the play do their talking, and they blow out the Crimson Tide today. Big Ten right now, you got Nebraska losing again today to Illinois. So that's lost to Michigan earlier in the week. They lose to Illinois. So they get their 2 losses now in the Big Ten. And you got Michigan State lost to Michigan the other night. So you got Michigan atop the Big Ten, and Illinois, Purdue still hanging around. There's 4 or 5 really good teams in the Big Ten right now. Wisconsin, they had a big win against Ohio State. So they're putting themselves in a good position there as well. So anyway, that's a quick whip around college basketball. So yeah, let's talk to Andrew Dukowitz. Let's talk about Wolves, and let's talk about Wolves trade talk. All right, I'm excited to have Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage with me again today. The Wolves are officially past the halfway point of the season, coming up on the All-Star break, and there's all kinds of trade discussions to talk about. So what better time than now to bring on Andrew, man about town. You might have heard him on Fox 9, on K-Fan. He's everywhere covering Gopher Women's hoops, which we'll talk about later. But Andrew, thanks a lot for coming on again today.
Of course, man. Anytime you can talk about hoops, it's hard for me to pass up. So I appreciate you having me back on and looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to start with the Wolves. I mean, they go through their January kind of downturn. It seems like it's an annual thing. They lose 5 straight. Everyone's negative. And I think people who've been around the team the last couple of years kind of felt like, this was just how they roll. And here they are, a 4-game win streak, including knocking off the Thunder last week. Do you feel that way around the team? Do you feel like this is kind of just, part of the long grind of a season? You have your ups and downs, and they generally figure it out this time of year?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I'll just say, like, this off season, the Wolves kept their core together, right? Like, only Nikhil leaves. They keep kind of their top 8 guys, if you want to include Mike and Terrence in that conversation. Rob comes back, like, all this continuity. And all summer, kind of the messaging from training camp and summer league is, this continuity is going to allow us to grow in kind of the more nitty gritty areas of basketball, right? Like diving for loose balls, running all the way to the corner on fast breaks. Like, we're going to do all the things that the Pacers did, essentially, was kind of the message. And, the first 20 games or so, I think it was a little disappointing because they did next to none of the things that the Pacers did. They were still kind of the same old team. And then over the last 20 games, we've just kind of learned, like, oh, this really is just the same Wolves team. The longer the injury kind of report for an opposing team, the more likely that the Wolves are going to be in a close game, it seems like. And that's really how it's been. Chris Finch's entire tenure, Ant's entire career. It's just one of those maddening things when you're covering the team or when you're a fan at home watching the team, because, like, it just keeps happening. But it is now that time, February 1st time, as of recording this, where the Wolves have kind of backed themselves into this corner where they were the 7 seed before they ripped off these 4 games in a row. And when this team has their back up against the wall and they are kind of forced to kind of lock in and play their best basketball, they've shown every year that they're more than capable of doing that. And then you see, yes, Oklahoma City had people that didn't play, but Shea was still out there. Dort's still out there. You still have Chet out there. Like, it's not like it's a bad team that they played and they go out and kind of beat the brakes off of them. Memphis, team that they should win. It was a professional, like, approach yesterday. They led the entire game, finished with a nice double-digit lead. We're up by 20 for most of it. And we're starting to see just these signs of, like, okay, now they're starting to lock it back into gear. I don't think it's they just need time to gel or anything like that. I think it really is this team just kind of needs their back against the wall for them to start really locking in. Or, like, they need fans to start losing faith in them, or the national media to disrespect them. Like, they're a team that thrives when they're the underdogs. And it's frustrating that every year it seems to be the same, but at this point, 6 years into Ant's career, it's just kind of the identity that this team has taken, regardless of who's been on the team.
Right. And they seem to get up for certain teams, obviously. OKC being one of them, San Antonio being one, Denver being another, which are the teams they're going to have to get through in the Western Conference. So there's kind of this side of it where I generally reserve opinions on, like, flipping a switch, right, to championship teams. Like, if OKC was struggling, you'd be like, they're going to be fine. They've got equity. The Timberwolves have less equity, but I do feel like there is an element of this team and their mindset, and you're closer to it than I am, but where it does just kind of feel like, you know what, when it's time to go, we're going to go, and we're going to be ready, and we're going to play the way we need to play. like you said, it's frustrating, but OKC lost to the Pacers like 2 weeks ago. And I mean, that's a terrible loss for them, but it is the NBA and it's what happens. And I guess I just continue to kind of buy into the Ant Finch, tradition of we're going to kind of do this a few times and it's going to be frustrating, but at the end of the season, we're going to be in the mix and we're going to give ourselves a chance in the playoffs.
Yeah, and to your point, it is like an NBA wide problem. Like the Pistons went through a stretch where I think they lost like 3 out of 5 to teams again with below 500 records. The Spurs go out and beat the Thunder 3 times in 10 days, then lose to the Jazz. Like every team has this issue. It's just the Wolves, it seems like, not that it happens more than other teams. I think it happens about the same, but it's that it's happened every year for the last 4 years that they are dropping these games. Last year, you look at the Obi Toppin Pacers game to bring up the Pacers, or the Kyle Kuzma Milwaukee game. The year before that, I believe they lost 2 in Portland, like against Portland's backups. Like it's just kind of in this team. The other thing to your point is like, Finch tries to coach these guys up, and like Dane is on this road trip and kind of put out some quotes after last night's Memphis game of just like Finch being pissed at the team despite them winning by a lot, because like he felt their energy and effort wasn't up to par. And like Finch does really try and coach these guys hard. I think it's just, when you have an Anthony Edwards, like a blue chip guy, he's just kind of going to make you eat your words a lot of times. So like if you scream about the effort and all of this stuff, there's just going to be some games where he drops 50 and he's just kind of casually going through the game. And what do you do? Finch, I think at a different point in the season, said it almost seemed like the Wolves were kind of bored, which that's kind of the vibe I get watching them a lot of times, is just they know they're going to be in the postseason. They know they're going to, regardless of the seed, they're going to have a chance. I think they're just in this mode now after 2 Western Conference finals where they're just like, let's get there healthy and let's just start. Which, again, if you're the 2 seed or the 1 seed, I think you can have that approach. When you're battling between 3 and 9, not a great approach, but that's kind of my vibe on the team anyways.
Yeah. They I feel like a couple of weeks ago it was the Houston San Antonio back to back, and you're thinking, okay, if they can win these 2, they're maybe they pass San Antonio and they move up, and then they drop 5 in a row and you're 3 or 4 games back or whatever it is, and now you look back and now we're 2 games back of San Antonio again. So they kind of just didn't negate it, but it does feel like at least from a playoff positioning standpoint, it's more comfortable as a fan to see them in that 4 or 5. Although I don't want to see OKC in the second round again, or anytime really, to be honest. But one thing about that game specifically, I want to ask you about the defense. I mean, that was Wolves defense from 2 years ago, like that. Now, obviously, it's going to be tough for them to play that way all the time through 82 games. But was there anything different about their approach that night, or was it strictly we're gonna get back to physical, make Shea uncomfortable? He still dropped 30, but was there anything tactical they did different, or is it just that energy they just came to play that night?
I think this is the most frustrating answer I can give. It's just the energy. Like, I asked Finch about it after the game first, of just like, you guys like held Shea in check. Like, what did you do? And he was just kind of like, what we game planned to do every time, but like they just did it. And then I asked Ant, and he's like, yeah, you just throw 2 at him and then you fan out when he starts passing it. And like, that's what you do against him. And I think the reason it just looks so much better is like, I think Jaden almost every game is going to bring the juice no matter what. I think Rudy, I can count maybe 2 or 3 games over the last calendar year that he didn't come in looking like Rudy Gobert. Dante always shows up and brings it, but Ant and Julius are kind of the 2 catalysts of when they are locked in. I mean, we literally saw Julius Randle punk Wemby in that Spurs home game before they went on the road. Yep. Like, that's the ceiling of Julius Randle. He's so strong. He's so good laterally. He's so good at getting position. And Ant is an all NBA caliber defender when he is locked in, which
Right.
against Oklahoma City, he sees Shea on the other side of the marquee. Ant's going to be locked in when Julius is playing against someone that, I notice it like when they're playing against LeBron or when they're playing against some of these bigger like star power fours, Giannis. Julius is usually significantly better. I think it just shows the ceiling of this team. And despite all of this, as of right now, sitting here, they are 4th in the league in defensive rating. So despite all of these kind of like criticisms, they are still a top 5 defense in the league, which is crazy because it doesn't feel that way. A lot of times it feels like they're more middle of the pack, middling, but they have, I mean, at this point of the season, it's not an outlier that they're up there.
Yeah, I had checked the point differential today, and I saw that they're third actually. So they're fifth in the West, but by record. But sometimes that over a course of a whole season can tell you more too. I think this is a good transition to the trade discussion because what we talked about Jaden. My worry with all of the discussions about Giannis, and I don't know how real they are. I don't know if you have any inklings, but my fear is like, he is so important at the point of attack against, whether it's Jamal Murray or Devin Booker or Shea. I love Jaden. I'm a huge Jaden fan, and I would hate to see him be part of this. I don't even know if Ant and Jaden and Nas are so tight. Like, I would assume they're talking to him about anything, but does he have to be involved if they make a big move? If it's Giannis, for instance.
So if it's Giannis, it gets really hard without Jaden. So
yeah,
like if it's Giannis and Jaden isn't involved, you're trading Julius to a third team. I mentioned like Atlanta. Trade Julius to Atlanta, have Porzingis as the salary filler, go back to Milwaukee, and then like Risha Shea go back as like the former top overall pick. I have no clue if Atlanta would do that, but that's the type of like asset you would have to try and figure out how to get Julius to pry away from a team, and then you reroute that asset. So it's like, can you get like Dylan Harper away from the Spurs or Castle? But then if that's the route you're going, why aren't the Spurs just going to trade for Giannis and instead of Julius? Now, if Jaden is the asset and you have Rob and you have TJ or whatever else going with Jaden to Milwaukee, I think then, if you're the Bucks, it's like, hey, we're getting this guy that's gotten better every year. He has all-star potential. His scoring's gotten better. He's a 40% three-point shooter. Like, you can kind of talk yourself into it a little bit more. Nas, I think if Jaden isn't involved in the deal, like Nas almost certainly has to be involved, which that's the same thing. Like Milwaukee could probably, again, you're going to get more assets from like a third team because Milwaukee's probably looking at Julius like, why on earth would we want him here? We want to lose. But if you're getting, former lottery picks from other teams, and then from Minnesota, you're getting like, Behringer, Nas, Rob, and TJ, and then 97 second-round picks that they've acquired. You can kind of talk yourself into it if you're Milwaukee, but I'll be honest, like, unless Giannis over the next 3 days makes that situation absolutely untenable, it doesn't make sense for them to trade him mid-season. Like, they can get more assets in the offseason. Everyone's salary cap situation gets easier, so trades are easier to do. And Giannis can sign an extension with Milwaukee and then just get traded out as a sign-and trade and still get all of his money. So it's, in my humble opinion, I think it's going to be a lot of smoke around the deadline day, and then it'll just be Giannis getting shut down for the season and then traded in the offseason. When it comes to the Wolves, I think you're right. Like, if Jaden's getting traded out, they're going to have to talk to Ant about it. Like, I know a lot was talked about Kat and Ant's relationship, how they're brothers and stuff like that. Like, that was more of like, this is my work best friend type of relationship. Like, Ant, Jaden, and Nas are like legitimate friends outside of like basketball. They work out together.
Yeah.
They do things together. Like their significant others know each other. Like Jaden's like girlfriend calls like Nas Uncle Nas around their kids. Like they are like a legitimate like family type of structure, which you know, it is a business at the end of the day. But I think if you're going to trade your star player's best friend, like that's their best friend on the team, that's tough. Which I mean, the other thing is this front office is extraordinarily high on Jaden. Like they think he can be an all-star. They truly think that guy 3 or 4 years from now, it's going to be Ant and Jaden starting in all-star games, which if that's what they see as the ceiling for him, it's a tough trade to make. To just wrap it all up though, like just objectively speaking, if they are to get Giannis in here, you have Ant, who's probably the 6th best player in the year, and in the league, and Giannis is probably the 3rd or 4th best player in the league. Historically speaking, you pair those two guys together and you win a championship at some point. Like, probably wouldn't be this year because there's going to be so many moving pieces, but it's something that the front office, if they can get Giannis in the door, like Ant becomes the 2nd best player on this team, and he is arguably the best American-born player in the NBA right now.
Right.
So, like, it changes the trajectory of this franchise. It's just, how much do they want to give up? Is Milwaukee even going to entertain it? Because this offseason, I mean, Oklahoma City can say, here's Jalen Williams, a all-star caliber player, 17 first-round picks, and Isaiah Hartenstein to match the salaries. And
they just don't have the draft capital.
They just don't have the ammunition. Now, this offseason, it does change. Just, again, as I'm rambling. Like, this offseason, the second they make their 2026 first-round pick, they can trade that gentleman. The second they make that pick, their 2033 first-round pick becomes available for trade, and their 2032 first-round pick becomes available for a pick swap. So if you're Milwaukee and you're saying Ant's going to leave, he's going to go to Miami, those two picks become extraordinarily valuable, especially if that organization believes Ant isn't long for this team, because then you're getting post-Ant like year 2 and 3 first-round picks, which, you know, how many years did we hear about the Lakers picks after LeBron, right? Like, there is some value this offseason they can get to, but right now that's all kind of locked still.
Yeah. I wonder a little bit schematically, you know, because it sounds like Rudy wouldn't be involved with anything, at least from what I've heard.
Yeah.
And so then you have Rudy and Giannis. And I don't know how that works, because at least Giannis had Brook Lopez in his heyday, and he's he's a shooter. He had space to operate down low. And you don't have a ton of bench at that point. So I don't know. I've kind of been thinking, like, I just don't see this happening. I agree. The thought of having 2 of the 7 best players in the world is super intriguing. But I also think, like, you know, there's some of the teams right now have more depth, and they're a little more athletic, and they're a little younger. And so I don't know if it sounds so stupid to say as I'm saying it. I'm like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, I don't know how much better they are overall. Like, I just love the Jaden Nas. I like having Nas on the bench, and Rudy, when you have Julius who can knock threes, and Jaden can make threes, and Anthony Edwards and Dante, and you bring in Giannis, and now you lose some of that shooting. I know he's gotten better at 3-point shooting, but I feel like it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Wolves, but I don't know. I mean, this
year, I think it would be a punt. Like, Giannis is out for 4 to 6
weeks. He's hurt,
means he's not coming back until early March. You have a month and a half to integrate him. Like, this year, if they make the trade mid-season, they're basically saying we are not winning a championship this year. Now, off-season, you know, if you keep Dante in that trade, you got Ant, Dante, Giannis. You can probably piece out Rudy for a couple pieces in the off-season. Teams will probably be more like willing to trade for Rudy, a guy that kind of needs to have a defense kind of molded around him. Maybe TJ isn't in the trade or Jalen Clark isn't in the trade. Vet minimum guys that'll come here to play for cheap. Like, I think like 2027, 2028 are probably the 2 years where this trade makes the most sense, but completely agree with you. Like, if they just trade for Giannis, I don't think they're a better team this season. Like,
Yeah.
it'd be a weird fit. You're counting on Ant and Giannis to both play and not be hurt. And if either of them goes down, I mean, if Giannis really is out for 4 weeks, like, this team might be a play-in team without Julius, Jaden, and Nas. So it gets dark. In the near term, it gets stark. But again, we'll see. I don't think there's this much smoke around it. I think it's very similar to like the Kevin Durant trade from last year during the season, where like Giannis would have to make things so unbearable in Milwaukee, and he would have to start saying to other agents, like, I am only re-signing an extension if I go to the Wolves, and kind of scares everyone else off, which if that's the case, then maybe you can get Giannis for like Rudy and Dante and that's it. But I just don't see Giannis doing that. Like, he just doesn't seem like a guy that would just burn every bridge out of Milwaukee on his way out.
Yeah. I think the last time you were on, you and I were talking about potentially a big man as a backup, maybe the Mitchell Robinson type, right? Like someone who can just rebound and come in and the non-Rudy minutes. I don't know if Berenger is at that level yet. He's shown some glimpses, and I think does his development or his, just getting more minutes lately, does that change your thought? Because I've been thinking more about some of these backup point guards, like defensive-minded, kind of scrappy, grittier point guards now. I think you and Phil Mackey were talking about TJ McConnell and Jose Alvarado possibly, which I kind of like those guys. Today I saw Malik Monk as maybe a target, but does it change? And I mean, just it's trade going nuts right now. But anyway, question is, with Berenger, do you still feel like they need another big? Or has that changed your mindset on what they need?
So it's changed it a little bit because, up until that Milwaukee game where he kind of got quite a bit of run because Rudy was suspended, it was you have a complete unknown and then nothing behind Gobert. So if Gobert's played off the floor because he's just having a bad game, if he gets 3 fouls in the first half, like, you just don't have an option. It's just now we play small, right? With Nas out there and Randall. And that had been kind of a question mark. I think Johan has at least shown enough to where you feel like, okay, if Rudy gets his 4th foul 3 minutes into the third quarter, Johan can give us 5 minutes, which that was kind of my biggest concern going into the playoffs, was like, this defense is a train wreck without Rudy. And if you have no answer for that, it means you're just going to be throwing away a playoff game if Rudy gets in foul trouble. I think Johan has shown enough. And also just like the Nas Randall combo has looked quite a bit better in recent weeks. They just seem to be rotating a little bit faster. Randall's been doing a little bit more on the center and letting Nas kind of play on the 4. And occasionally they've even had like Jaden be the low man and be like the quote unquote center, and then Nas covers a wing guy and Randall does Randall stuff. Like, they've kind of figured that part out. I still am like hesitant with the point guard because I just don't know how much they're going to play. Like, if Dante's playing 40 minutes in a playoff game, if Ant's playing 40 minutes in a playoff game, and if Jaden's playing 40 minutes in a playoff game, that's 24 minutes, like, max that would go to a point guard or wing player. I think Bones and Jalen Clark have done enough to where you could probably play both of them 3 or 4 minutes in the first half, and if one of them has it going, you roll it over into the second. So now I've more, just over the last couple weeks, switched to like, they just need someone that can score off the bench. Like, when Bones doesn't have his shot falling, they have no one outside of Nas right now. Like, Mike can still kind of, organize an offense. I think he still has like a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Like, he's still fine. Like he is a fine 8 minutes a game backup point guard. Like that's just kind of where he is now. And Bones is so volatile that I'd almost like if they got someone that, like, if Bones is off, they just have another gunner they can throw in there, which I'll be honest, at the money spot of Rob and like Lenny, it gets you to like just over $10 million in salary. Wolves are first apron. They can't really take back a whole lot of money over that. So if you're trading those two out for somebody, you're looking at like a $10 million guy. If you're just trading Rob, it's like a $6 million guy. If it's Lenny and picks, it's like a $2 million guy. So then it's like, you know, people on Twitter have been throwing out like Russell Westbrook quite a bit. And it's like, sure, you know, like give him 4 minutes in the first half. If he's going rogue, pull him. But like, is Russ going to be cool with that role?
Right.
Like it's just not a very inspiring list of guys. Like Gary Harris, meh. Yeah. Gary Trent Jr. Like there just isn't a lot of guys out there in that money range. Yeah. And the other thing that kind of sucks is most of the guys that are out there in that money range, like your Quentin Grimes, your Buddy Hields, are on teams that are trying to win basketball games. So like they're not going to give up Quentin Grimes for a Rob Dillingham type of project unless you're throwing in like 4 second-round picks, which this team already doesn't have a lot of like assets in terms of picks right now. So I mean, honestly, at this point, little bit of scoring off the bench and then re-sign Kyle Anderson after he gets bought out is probably where this team goes. That's if Kyle gets bought out, but I would assume at this point he is. He's not really playing a ton in Utah, and I'm sure they're trying to shop him with everything they have, but you know, he's not exactly like a trade target for people. So I don't know. It's kind of a sad place to be looking at Wolves trades right now, because it's either they take a big swing and you're losing someone you really like on the team. I tend to think they're most likely they keep the top 6 guys together. I would be shocked if they trade Mike at this point, just because like what he means behind the scenes in the locker room. And then they're kind of handcuffed with like, what can we get for Rob? Which the other kind of wrinkle I would add to that is Rob is one of their better assets. If they trade him for like, let's say they do the Kobe White trade and they trade Rob, Lenny, convert Johnny Juzang and trade for Kobe White. Kobe White's just going to get he's not going to stay here. He's not going to sign an extension to be a backup point guard on the Timberwolves. Like he can go make 25 million somewhere. So then you've just kind of like wasted your Rob bullet in the chamber for 3 months of Kobe White, who might play 15 minutes in the playoffs. Like it's a really weird spot that they've been in all year. And now that we're at the deadline, it's even more weird.
Do you think there's any scenario where Dante would go back to coming off the bench with Nas? Like say the Kobe White thing happens, right? Like would Dante be cool with that? Would that be a good thing for the Wolves or not?
I think Dante would be cool with that. Like Dante is just a hooper. Like that dude, just whatever you need from him, he's there. I don't think there would be like an ego issue with it. I think the issue would be like Dante is so valuable as like the point of attack, like energy guy on this team that like I think their like screen defense would really suffer if Dante's not out there a lot, especially with Ant, because Ant, you know, I hate the cliche of like you have to save him for offense, because like these guys have like the best medical treatment in the world and like they're not playing as many back-to-backs and there's all these other things. Like I think Ant can perfectly like guard an opposing team's best guard for 40 minutes. But like if he doesn't have to because Dante's doing it, like that's just kind of added value. So I don't think Dante would have an issue with it, but I do think like just logistically with how this team is kind of like their pecking order of like who does what, I think Dante it'd be tough because I don't know. Like Kobe White, I think is like a little bit above average defender, but like I don't know how pumped he would be to just like, all right, you're gonna run into every screen for 34 minutes because because Ant's only gonna do it for the last 4.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe why I kind of like the Alvarado and McConnell idea. Like, I feel like McConnell fits with what they would want to do. Um,
Completely agree. By
just,
the way, the issue
but
with
I don't
McConnell,
know. Yeah, if it's the money, if it's the compensation, or what it is. But I don't.
I just don't think the Pacers are gonna trade him. Like they're gonna have a top 5
Because
pick
they're gonna,
and
yeah.
Halliburton come back next year. Like keep McConnell.
Watch them get Darren
Alvarado makes a
Peterson
lot
or
of
something.
sense. That's the one I think I could see more. But like, if I'm
Yeah.
Indiana, it's just like, hey, TJ, like I know it sucks, but next year is going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can't with that team with Halliburton back, and then if they get like Debansa or Darren somehow get the top pick and get Peterson, that would be insane. They'd be
Yep.
right back at the top of the East.
And the
So,
East is like bad. So like, I think a lot of East teams are going to talk themselves into, if we just get lucky in a series against like New York, or if we just get lucky against Detroit. You know, they haven't played a ton of playoff minutes. Like if we get Detroit, then we're a series away from the final. Like I think a lot of Eastern Conference teams are going to talk themselves into being buyers or keeping their stuff. And then like again, it goes back to the Wolves of like they just don't really have anything other than Rob, and it would suck if you traded Rob for a guy that just bounces in a month.
Yeah. You know, another name that comes up that I've heard, and I'm only going to bring it up here because the Minnesota connection, but Jalen Suggs. And I was kind of floored by that because he's making like 30-some million dollars. Now, again, very defensive minded point guard, can get hot, make some shots, but that one seems to be more of a pipe dream. But I don't know if you've heard that or what you think about Jalen Suggs.
Suggs, I think, would be great. I think the only way you could kind of do it is if Nas is going out, like Nas and Rob and picks kind of match Suggs' salary. I think Suggs would fit like phenomenally well next to Ant and Jaden, like super low usage offensive guy that like has a pretty good handle. He can bring the ball up pretty competently, which Ant and Jaden both struggle at times. And then on defense, he's just an attack dog. Like, souped up Dante. I think he would, like, this team certainly would like to do that. It's just, again, like the Nas of it all of like, do we give up a guy that's going to win potentially the second sixth man of the year in 3 years for Jalen Suggs, who's, you know, kind of up and down, which, again, I'm fully aware that like I'm taking a very wet blanket approach to the trade deadline, but I just think they're kind of handcuffed. Like, I think it's just, you know, unfortunately it's going to be like a minor deal. Maybe like Leonard gets sent out for some random, you know, Jalen Wilson from the Nets, some wing player that's shown flashes so they can kick the tires on him. And then like Kyle comes back on a buyout, or some wing gets acquired in a buyout, or Javon Carter got cut by the Bulls. Like, I don't think he's making anyone go like, wow, that's the difference maker. But like, you know, bring in Javon Carter, give him some third string point guard minutes and see if he's any better than Mike is right now, and kind of roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, you say a wet blanket, but honestly, I'm kind of like, if they stand pat, I'm okay with it. Like I like this team. They're fun to watch. When they got it going, it is awesome. And so I'm kind of in the boat of like, let's do it. Let's see what we got. You know, Denver's getting their guys back. Spurs are coming on. Like Rockets are, you know, the West is awesome, and I think it's just fun to kind of see this group, you know, navigate this. And third time through now in the playoffs, like, is it any different? Can Ant go to a whole nother, like another level? Like, I think it's just fun. So in all honesty, when I even the Giannis thing, I kind of want this team together. I like them, so that's just my opinion.
I mean, I'm there with you. Like they're a top 10 offense and defensive team, like you said, third and plus minus. Like this is a really good team, and when they are all in sync and motivated together, they are an excellent team. Like I do think they're still a half step behind Denver at this point. Like Jokic just casually misses a month and then comes back and drops 30 in his first game back. And then Oklahoma City is just like, there's just so much talent, but you kind of see the path to beating them of, the Wolves can play good enough defense. I think if Jalen Williams played in that game, certainly he's a better scorer than Cason Wallace is. And I think if, Caruso is playing in that game, he's a better spot-up shooter than some of the guys they had out there. But, like, their offense isn't a whole lot different when those guys are playing. Like,
right.
I kind of want to just see it, which maybe that's to some people, you're wasting a year where the window's open. But at the same time, it's kind of like I said at the beginning of the season on a few different podcasts of just like Shea twists his ankle, everything's changed. Like you can't just say like it's a wasted season because the Wolves want to be one of the 4 best teams in the West. Like things happen every year. Toronto makes that Kawhi Leonard trade during the Golden State Warriors dynasty years. Like realistically, do you make that trade if you... Yeah, I mean, that's the one I point to of just like, that's a trade from a team that's like, hey, we're pretty good to like, we're going all in to win a championship, but Golden State's there, so our odds still aren't that good. Like, I think the Wolves' odds aren't that good, but they have a path at least, which is a lot more than some of these other teams.
Yeah. I think as long as we got Anthony Edwards, there's some level of a path, right? There's some hope. Let's pivot a little bit. I don't know how many listeners know it, but you cover Gopher women's basketball as well as the Lynx is a big part of your job. But you were at the game yesterday. Gopher women defeat Purdue. That's what, their 4th in a row, I believe. And I wanted to talk about them for a couple reasons. One, I noticed they're number 13 in the net. Had no idea they were that high. And I think it's just like looking at some of the losses, like they've lost to some really good teams, but they got the Kansas loss and Alabama, who's having a pretty good year in the SEC. But more so, just like I don't know that everyone's paying attention to this Gopher women's team, and based on the net, they're poised to make an NCAA tournament, which would be the first in is it Plitzowitz? Is that how you say your name, Plitzowitz?
Yes. First since 2018, so it'd be the first in almost a decade.
So kind of big news. So I guess first of all, like, how are they trending towards the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, they're giving themselves a really good chance, and I say that because they have one of the top 10 defensive rating is kind of the rating I go for like how good is your defense. They're top 10 in the country. They are able to not just hold down like bottom feeders. I think at the beginning of the season their defense was really good, and you're like, yeah, but like how good is North Dakota? Like, are they really running the pace, and like is this really a good sample size? And then you see they do it against Michigan. South Carolina ends up with 100 points, but that's after a double overtime game. They do it against UCLA, where they hold UCLA about 10 points under their average. And UCLA is the 3rd-ranked team in the country. And now they're kind of in this meat of the Big Ten season where they play Purdue yesterday. And Purdue, after the first half of basketball, had 10 turnovers and 11 made shots. Like, oof. This defense is just swarming. They're deep. They have 9 gals that all play really well together. They can go big with Sophie Hart and Tonga out there. They can play small with 4 guards around a center. And they just, like, genuinely seem like they're having a ton of fun, like, ruining teams' game plans. I think The Gophers' issue is they go minutes at a time without scoring the basketball, which South Carolina, they had 8-point lead with, I want to say, about 30 seconds left in double overtime. They lost it. They also had a
Maryland, right?
lead. Maryland, yep, not South Carolina.
Yeah.
Against Maryland, they lost that one. They also had a
Yeah.
lead in the fourth quarter and first overtime. They blew both of those leads. Had a close game against Michigan, and then their offense just goes completely dry. Alabama was pretty similar, where like the defense did its job. They just could not score enough. So the hope is that as the season continues to go on, they get people kind of more comfortable with their new roles. Mara Braun is back this year after missing all of last season with a broken foot. She's been okay. I mean, she went from being a potential WNBA lottery pick to the fourth best starter on the team. Like, that hurts. Amaya Battle has been pretty bad scoring the ball, been better the last 3 games. And they've really started to lean into Grace Groshalski, who is their kind of redshirt junior kind of 3-point specialist. And Tori McKinney is their true sophomore that is really taking a step forward, scoring the ball, getting to the rim. So as they're kind of shifting things to their new like offense, I'm doing the air quotes, the hope would be that they can get this offense figured out and make noise in the tournament. But at this point, I'd say they're pretty much a shoo-in. As long as they just take care of business, they should be in the tournament and probably a top 8 seed in one of the brackets.
Oh, that's great. I mean, obviously, like, some of us remember the Lindsay Whalen, Janelle McCarville days, and it's much like the men's program. It's been a struggle for years. So big game at Iowa this week, and then, like you said, I think they have a couple more. They got Ohio State and Michigan State both ranked in the top 13, so they got opportunities to kind of prove, like you said, they played Maryland really close. They played Michigan well. They've had some close games. They got USC, so they got a ranked win there. But it'd be nice to like kind of gain that momentum going into tournament play if they can get another kind of marquee win. I always feel like those are impactful both for the committee and your seeding, but also just for your mental state to say, like, we're gonna be able to knock some teams off. Big Ten tournament, is that in Chicago or Indy this year? Do you know?
Believe it's in Chicago.
Okay.
Which, to piggyback off of that point of just like their defense gives them a chance in every game. Like this is the advantage of playing a defense. Like their defense routinely allows under 15 points a quarter. Like against good and bad teams, they're going to have chances. It's just, can they figure out the kind of new scoring pecking order quick enough to, make it like ingrained and work by the time or the NCAA tournament starts, which that's kind of the to be determined part, because if they want to make noise in the tournament, they got to figure out how to score more than 55, 60 points consistently.
Yeah. 7-4 in the Big Ten right now. It's fun to see that program having some success. I think these last 2 hires that they've made, both on the men's and women's side, are just it's such a stark difference. Everyone knows Lindsay Whalen and what she's done in her career, but when you're in a Big Ten program, you have to find program builders, in my opinion, and they found one on the women's side first. And now they found one on the men's side, and this is her second year, right, Don's? And so you're looking at NCAA tournament.
I think it's her
probability. Is it her third year? Okay, third year. But having an identity, defense, like just having something night in, night out, we're going to count on. We're going to gives ourselves a chance. It matters so much in college basketball, and the women's side is reaping some benefits now, and hopefully on the men's side they can get it going to, I think Nico's the right person. So it's good to see these two hires having some success in earlier in their tenures. So
Yeah.
anything else on the Gopher women's side?
What's that?
I said anything else on the Gopher women's side that you noticed, like anything stand out about how they play?
It's a fun brand of basketball to watch if you're into kind of like the rock fights and just watching like an opponent's team kind of like lose the will to keep playing, because like there are quite a few games where it's like midway through the third quarter and you can just tell like, oh, they want to go home, like they don't want to be playing basketball anymore. The barn, I'd say if people are in the Twin Cities area or want something cheap to do on one of these last few games, like tickets are cheap, parking's cheap, $10 for parking, like $15-20 for tickets. It's a pretty good atmosphere. Like it's a fun thing to do, especially if you have like kids that are in sports, young girls that are in sports. Like it is a fun time going to the barn. So I'd just say check them out. Like it is. I think it's a tough sell to get fans into Gopher basketball for exactly what you said. Like both programs have been pretty bad for years, but this Gophers team there's something different. And it's a lot of players that are, at least like on the women's side, it's a lot of players that play 4 or 5 years for the same program still. There's not as much of the transferring or going pro after 1 year. So it's a cool vibe. I'd recommend it.
Yeah. Great point on the players sticking around. They got Nebraska at home, and then they have Ohio State and Michigan State, so 2 ranked teams to finish the year at home. So yeah, definitely get out, and I might have to get over there too and check out a women's game this year. It's fun to cheer on a winner and at the barn once in a while. So
again, it's different. I'll say that. Like it's definitely a different vibe.
Yeah, it's a great building when they're rocking. I always said, like, when the Gophers, men's or women's, when that place is full and they're playing well, that building is really fun to be in. When they're not, it's kind of the complete opposite. So it can be pretty rough. But good to hear that the women are having a good season, above 500 in the Big Ten, looking like a tournament team. Andrew, thanks for the insight on that. Anything you want to plug? Any upcoming podcasts that you're doing or pieces that you're writing that you want people to check out?
Oh, gosh. As always, my writing's always on Zone Coverage. Wednesdays and Saturdays, usually my stuff comes out. Always, like, that's the best way to support anyone who's doing writing is just, even if you don't want to read it, just, like, click on the link and just scroll up and down like 6 times. It counts as a read, and then it makes numbers look better. Anyways.
You'll want to read it. You'll want to read it anyway.
You'll want to read it. There's a lot of, I think the most recent one I put out, we went about 200 words off the bat on a very niche 1999 roller coaster tycoon reference. My editor lets me go wild. Other than that, post-game podcast for the Wolves and the Lynx, missing Wolves for the Wolves, missing Lynx for the Lynx. I am joining Worst Case Scenario most Sundays, Max and Brett over on K-Fan, so always feel free to call in over there, text in over there. A lot of WWE talk today, so that's always fun. What else do I have going on? I think that's all I know right now.
That's it. I mean,
that's all I got going on right now.
Busy guy. Well, sweet. Great conversation. Wolves, I'd love to have you on again as we get closer to playoff time. It's the ups and downs of the Wolves season are always fun to chat about. So, Andrew, thanks again for joining.
Absolutely. Think of how boring it would be if they just only won. We'd have nothing to talk about.
Oh, yes. That would be quite awful, I'm sure. All right, man. Well, thanks again. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. That's the show for today. Thanks to Andrew Dukowitz from Zone Coverage and Missing Links, Missing Wolves podcast. Check out his writing. For every Wolves postgame, you can listen to his postgame discussion from the Wolves, recap that night's game. So that's the show. Follow on Instagram, follow on Facebook, leave a review on Spotify or Apple. And then you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel where I post some videos on teams of the week, like I said, college basketball rankings, and the podcast is there too. So if you prefer to listen or watch the podcast on YouTube, it's available there. But appreciate you listening. Till next time, this has been the Splash City Basketball Podcast.
Back in that bag again.